The community remains tense as search teams continue their tireless efforts. Every lead is crucial in this heartbreaking case.
If we put his face up on every gas station, every supermarket, I swear he won't be able to hide for more than a week.
Whether he's alive or not, we need to find him. Not for revenge, but because those 3 children deserve justice.
We have mobilized our entire force to thoroughly search every area. Every rock, every creek has been checked without exception.
We searched every inch, every rock, every creek bend. No blood, no scraps of food, no sign of fire. He vanished like a ghost.
On May 30th, 2025, Travis Decker, a former paratrooper and Army warrior trainer, took his 3 young daughters on a scheduled camping trip. 3 days later, their bodies were found in Rock Island Forest, Washington. Their hands were zip-tied, their heads covered with plastic bags, and Travis disappeared. Since then, he hasn't appeared on a single surveillance camera, hasn't used a phone, hasn't made a financial transaction, left no suicide note, and no body has been found. Despite search dogs, drones, infrared cameras, and elite tracking units being deployed, there's been nothing. No one understands how a man with a known psychiatric history, past threats toward his family, and the murder of his own children could vanish entirely in a country surrounded by technology and data. But more disturbing than the brutality of the crime is the silence that followed. The question, why hasn't he been caught, is no longer just a concern for law enforcement. It's a wound in public conscience waiting for justice. What follows are 7 breakthrough strategies, 7 focused efforts now being pushed in hopes of breaking this deadlock and bringing Travis into the light. Each one isn't just a tool to catch a fugitive, but a direct response to the question so many of us still carry. Where is he? Is he still alive? And how, after all this time, has no one found him?
To track someone trained to disappear, you have to find someone trained to detect that disappearance.
It takes experience and patience. You learn to read the invisible signs, footsteps no one notices, broken branches.
Travis Decker is not a civilian fleeing in panic. He's a former paratrooper, once a trainer at the U.S. Army Warrior Transition Center. He knows how to set up camp without leaving a trace, how to move silently through forest terrain, how to plant false trails, and most importantly, he understands exactly what misleads a search team. For someone like him, cameras and drones are just surface tools. To catch him, we need to bring in people who have lived in the woods, marched for days without a word, and learned to see signs that civilians and even conventional officers often miss. That's why many experts believe specialized tracking units, composed of former military scouts and wilderness-trained personnel, must be activated as a dedicated spearhead. In a wilderness area stretching hundreds of square kilometers, it's not the obvious that reveals the fugitive's path. It's the anomalies. A vine bent in the wrong direction, hammock marks on a tree trunk, a cooled fire pit under a ledge, a single scratch on a log, or a broken branch that doesn't match wind patterns. These are not random. They are Travis's breadcrumb trail, if you know how to read it. Everyone leaves something behind. The question is whether the person looking has the instincts to notice. Veterans of reconnaissance, long-range patrols, and jungle warfare carry something technology can't replicate. A primal sensitivity to danger. A faint scent. A patch of soil sunken deeper than expected. Or an unnatural silence between the trees. These are not recorded by devices, but sensed by minds trained to survive in unforgiving environments. Travis doesn't just know how to hide. He knows how search teams operate. He knows where they'll enter, which paths they'll search first, how scent dogs are deployed, and how thermal scans are plotted. That means he's not moving randomly. He's moving counter to assumptions. This demands a pursuit force that doesn't just follow footprints, but thinks backwards, doubts the obvious, and considers that the most dangerous spot may be behind the trail, not ahead of it. If deployed correctly, with proper equipment and guided by someone who understands how a trained survivalist behaves, these tracking specialists can peel back the layers of camouflage Travis has woven around himself. In this hunt, cameras can detect heat, drones can map terrain, but only someone who has lived like Travis, who has thought like Travis, can say with any certainty, he's here.
If the whole country sees his face every day, he will be the one with nowhere left to hide.
Hunting him down in the deep forest is necessary, but we can also track him with LED lights, social media, and billboards.
At this stage, the public doesn't just want to know where Travis is, they want to help find him. And the only way to turn a country of 300 million people into an extended search force is to make his face a visual symbol that cannot be avoided. In modern history, media has been used to help locate fugitives, but never has it been fully weaponized in the case of a man who murdered his own daughters. Now is the time to change that. Every digital billboard on highways should show his face and the tip line number. Every gas station, convenience store, bait shop, and roadside supply stand should post large, wanted flyers. Outdoor LED screens in rural towns, local stadiums, and community centers, places where people gather, must display his image every hour. But this effort can't rely on outdated photos. Travis has been missing for over a month. His appearance may have changed. He could be thinner, bearded, wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, or charity clothes. With AI-generated composites simulating his likely evolution, Travis after 3 weeks on the run, or Travis in wilderness mode, the public will have updated references, increasing the chance of recognition on the road, in a forest, or by a creek. Social media is the second front. Short 60-second wanted videos must go viral, designed like emergency alerts, with language aimed at activating individual responsibility. You pump gas for a living. Do you know who filled up this morning? Or did the man asking you for directions match this face? These videos must target specific demographic groups: long-haul truckers, delivery drivers, locals near forest regions, roadside motel staff. Each audience needs a message tailored to their world, using language and scenarios they encounter, so the information sticks instead of vanishing like background noise. At the same time, platforms' algorithms must be leveraged to push Travis's image into the top of every feed, making him the face no one can scroll past. When someone hiding in society begins to feel that every glance is directed at them, every screen names them, every poster condemns them, the psychological pressure builds toward a breaking point. Travis may be a trained soldier, but no one can remain psychologically intact when their identity becomes a nationwide drumbeat. And perhaps most critically, if he's being helped by an old friend, a relative, a well-meaning stranger, that person must now understand. Helping him is no longer neutral. It is a choice to conceal the killer of 3 innocent girls. This is not just an image crisis. It's a siege of the mind. It turns Travis from a fugitive into a man being closed in from all sides, not with weapons, but with eyes, with judgment, and with the name he can't outrun.
He can hide from people, but he can't hide under the sky. Every small movement is captured by satellite images, revealing exactly where he's trying to conceal himself.
We're not searching for a person. We're searching for change, even if it's just a single pixel.
Across the vast wilderness of Washington state, where Travis Decker is believed to be hiding, ground-level search teams face constant limitations. Thick forests, uneven terrain, and limited visibility make it easy to miss critical signs. This is where the search must ascend, literally and strategically. Satellite imagery and infrared surveillance are the eyes above, capable of seeing what humans can't. Companies like Maxar, Planet Labs, and various government platforms offer high-resolution satellite imagery taken in regular intervals. But the breakthrough lies not in the maps themselves, but in the differences between them. No one is looking for Travis's silhouette. They're looking for altered soil, a new tarp in the underbrush, chopped vegetation, a subtle change in light reflection, or a faint burn mark in the earth. These anomalies may appear as a handful of pixel shifts, but with AI and advanced image analysis, they become potential signs of life. By comparing satellite images taken before and after the murders, machine learning algorithms can automatically flag areas with terrain irregularities, compressed soil, disturbed foliage, new footpaths forming between trees. These flagged zones can then be relayed to ground teams for physical investigation. Meanwhile, thermal drones flying at night scan for body heat hidden beneath tree canopies. A warm tent, a human figure tucked in undergrowth, even the fading heat imprint of a hand that just left a rock. Additional data from weather satellites and ranger drones may reveal smoke trails, nocturnal light emissions, or slight biological changes in vegetation, subtle indicators that someone is surviving, cooking, or burning waste in a region where no one should be. Travis may not be using phones or vehicles, but if he's alive, he's leaving behind heat, chemical shifts, or traces of camp activity. The question isn't whether he's hiding, it's how he's altering the environment around him. And from above, every shift matters. In a world where nearly every square inch of Earth can be monitored from orbit, true invisibility is nearly impossible. Travis might avoid gas stations, he might dodge security cameras. But if he breathes, satellites can know. If he burns a branch, infrared sensors can detect it. And if he builds a shelter, machines above will spot its shadow. The goal is no longer to ask, where is he hiding? But how has the land changed because he's there? From above, no disruption goes unseen.
He has nowhere left to return to. For someone like him, there are only two choices: vanish completely or end everything quietly.
He was a soldier. He understood what death means. And perhaps he had been preparing for it for a long time.
Travis Decker isn't just a murder suspect. He's a former soldier with a history of combat trauma, diagnosed with PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and possibly delusional behavior. He once expressed a desire to disappear with his daughters. This wasn't a man fleeing in panic. It may have been someone who planned not only the killings, but the disappearance afterward, including the possibility of his own suicide. That means this manhunt may not be a search for someone living. It may be a recovery of a body that was meant never to be found. Criminal psychologists agree, given the brutality of Travis's act, murdering his 3 daughters without leaving a message or contacting anyone, the motive may not have been escape. It may have been a delayed murder-suicide. That is, he intended to end his own life after the killings, but for reasons unknown, lack of time, hesitation, or unfavorable conditions, he postponed the act and fled into isolation, waiting for a moment he deemed right. So, if Travis were to choose death, where would he choose it? Not in a random stretch of forest, not by accident. For individuals with psychological profiles like his, the location often carries personal meaning. A childhood memory, a remote hilltop from his military days, a rock outcrop overlooking a valley where he once felt detached from the world. He would likely choose a spot that is hard to reach, rarely traveled, off-grid, and most crucially, a place where if his body lay for months, no one would stumble upon it. Predicting suicide behavior is never precise, but by outlining the closure model Travis might follow, search teams could dramatically narrow the area of focus instead of wasting resources on scattered searches. This is especially critical in expansive terrain where a small miscalculation can lead to a body never being found. The U.S. has documented cases where fugitives killed themselves just a few hundred meters from the crime scene, but went undiscovered for years because no one thought they'd return to that place. It's also important to remember, if Travis is dead, that doesn't erase the need for justice. A body, bearing gunshot wounds, rope marks, or key personal items, can provide the closure that the public and the victim's family deserve. This isn't about revenge. It's about stopping the psychological open wound that this case has become. And it's about giving those 3 little girls the one thing they never got, a definitive end to their story.
He can cross a stream without leaving footprints, but he can't pass a camera lens without leaving a shadow.
We don't need him to look at the camera. We only need him to step into the frame once.
When all active pursuit efforts begin to dry up, passive surveillance becomes the most silent yet effective ally. Trail cameras, originally designed to monitor wildlife or catch trespassers, can now serve as a perimeter net around the Chilean forest. These infrared, waterproof, motion-activated devices can be planted deep in areas Travis is likely to pass through, near creeks, along lesser-used trails, on flat stone surfaces used for resting overnight, or places showing signs of previous camping. These cameras emit no signals, make no noise, and are often camouflaged to blend into bark or dirt. When Travis is surviving without connection, light, or electronic devices, he likely won't expect a quiet piece of hardware watching him from a tree trunk. But cameras don't need his cooperation. All they require is a single footstep through the dark, a brief flick of flashlight he forgot to shield, or a sliver of body heat slicing across the frame on a cold forest night. Even 2 blurry seconds of infrared footage could provide confirmation of location, direction of movement, physical state, and current appearance, critical elements in narrowing down the search. This surveillance system must not follow linear lines but be scattered in a crisscrossed grid, like a web of silent eyes. Each unit records to a memory card, checked regularly by rangers or survival-trained units. Placement is key. Cameras should be positioned just above average eye level to remain hidden, but still capture ground-level movement. Travis might avoid a checkpoint, but he's far less likely to notice a lens embedded in tree bark, angled downward from the canopy. This tactic isn't a strike. It's a slow encirclement, a quiet presence that never blinks. A tightening loop, measured not in noise but in memory cards, passing silhouettes, and invisible heat signatures threading through digital sightlines in the deep woods. And when he believes no one is looking anymore, it may be those anonymous machines that tell the world he's still alive, and he left a trace.
A person may cut off all contact, but he still needs fire, food, and shelter for the night. Those things always leave traces.
We're not tracking him directly. We're tracking everything he needs to survive.
Travis Decker may be a skilled survivalist with military experience, but he's still human. He needs clean water, food, basic medical supplies, fire for boiling, and shelter to avoid freezing overnight. And to obtain these things, even once, he must interact with the system by buying, exchanging, receiving, or borrowing. These interactions often happen quietly, but the system remembers. It records everything through transactions, movement, and background data. The first step is to review all accounts connected to Travis, including bank cards, credit cards, veteran assistance cards, or membership accounts at outdoor supply stores. Even if he ditched all electronics, a small misstep, like using an old card at a remote ATM or withdrawing cash at an unmonitored machine, could trigger alerts. Even if he doesn't make the purchases himself, investigators must look into transactions made by known associates or transfers routed through third parties. Unusual purchases in remote towns after May 30th, especially for camping gear or survival tools, must be flagged for deeper review. Next is mining data from surveillance cameras at stores selling survival gear, camping supplies, backwoods groceries, and gas stations along mountain roads. A man buying rope, knives, a solo tent, or bulk canned goods who appears only once and never returns should raise suspicion. While cash transactions at small-town stores may not hit bank systems, paper receipts and store video footage can still provide clues. Another key lead lies in old devices and phone numbers. Travis likely discarded his main phone, but if he ever used burner phones or alternate SIM cards, those signals, however brief, can be triangulated through local towers. Even phones without SIM cards, if connected to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth in any coverage area, will transmit a unique device ID, IMEI. By cross-referencing past logins, previous device metadata, and contacts made before the crime, analysts can map out a web of indirect movement, pointing toward possible hiding zones. Each small data point, an ATM in a forgotten town, a receipt for a lighter, a blurry figure entering a shop, might not be enough alone. But pieced together, they form a trail no one can outrun. Travis may have abandoned his old life, but he still needs to survive. And in a modern world, survival always leaves a mark, even in silence.
If we don't find him, maybe it's time to find those who are aiding him.
After nearly a month of evasion in harsh terrain, cold weather, and scarce resources, one possibility becomes increasingly clear. Travis Decker may not be acting alone. A man once trained in survival, mentally unstable, homeless, who murdered his 3 daughters and then vanished like a ghost. He may be receiving silent assistance. And if that's true, then dismantling that circle of support might be the key to bringing him in. The strategy begins with mapping every personal connection from Travis's past. Former military comrades, acquaintances from his time on the streets, people who once gave him shelter, and estranged family. Cutting ties with the world doesn't always mean total isolation. In previous cases, fugitives on the run for extended periods often relied on a single person, someone they had once helped, or someone deeply sympathetic to their trauma. These helpers don't always see themselves as abetting a criminal. Sometimes they're just offering a roof, a warm meal, a few clothes, or a map. Beyond direct connections, investigators must look for indirect signs. Has anyone made repeated trips into the same forested zone? Purchased unusual amounts of supplies but not used them? Appeared near the crime scene without explanation? Made questionable cash transactions? Particular attention should go to those showing internal conflict, people asking vague legal questions, hesitant to come forward, or posting things like, "What if a friend of mine did something bad?" These individuals might not be accomplices, but they're bridges between Travis and the world he's trying to vanish from. This strategy also involves a subtle form of media pressure. A targeted message toward local veterans or survivalist groups might yield results, because sometimes all it takes is one whispered, "I think I saw him," to unlock a whole new path forward. Most importantly, the message must be clear. Hiding Travis is not compassion, it's complicity. And every day someone feeds that silence, they help extend the suffering of victims, of justice, and of the truth. Travis may be living in darkness, but shadows don't sustain themselves. They need someone to keep the fire alive. And when we find that person, they, knowingly or not, will be the ones to drag Travis back into the light.
No crime is truly unsolvable. It's just a matter of how many are willing to see it through to the end.
Today, Travis Decker remains at large. He may be hiding somewhere deep in the forest, surviving off skills once taught in the military. Or perhaps he's already crossed state lines, changed his name, erased his presence. But no matter where he is, this case is far from over. Not simply because a suspect hasn't been captured, but because 3 young lives were taken in brutal silence. And those lives deserve to be remembered not only with tears, but with action. The death of those 3 girls is not the end of a story. It is the beginning of a vow that justice must not grow tired. Law enforcement, from local deputies to federal agents, have mobilized every resource. But in cases like these, justice is not held solely in the hands of institutions. It lives in the eyes of a witness who saw something, in the memory of a driver who passed an unmarked road, in a dash cam never reviewed, in the unfinished story of a lonely veteran. Justice waits in silence for someone to reach for it. It might take months, it might take years, but true justice cannot afford to give up. Because if someone like Travis can murder his own children and disappear, and we accept that, then it is not just a failure of the law. It is a failure of society itself. Travis Decker must be found not only to face punishment. He must be found to uphold a principle, that children are not nameless victims. That murder, no matter the context, cannot be allowed to fade into quiet forgetting. And that silence, however long it lasts, will be broken by those who refuse to forget. If you are reading this and you know something, speak. If you saw something, tell. If something inside you still feels unsettled by a detail you haven't shared, don't wait. Because in cases like this, one voice, one act of courage can change everything. Those 3 children will never return, but we can do something to ensure their loss is not meaningless. And that begins here, with you, with me, with all of us. Justice is not a concept, it is an action, it is a commitment, and it must be seen through to the very end.